Hello, and welcome to 15 Minutes in the Forest. I'm Karen Snape with Virginia Cooperative Extension, and today I'm coming to you from Riverview Park in the city of Radford in Southwest Virginia. I've been coming to this park almost every day since mid-March, and today I've pieced together some videos for you from visits that I've made over that time in the spring and summer here of 2020. And the goal here is not that you would come to Riverview Park, but I want you to see that even in a park that is largely devoted to a picnic shelter and a playground and a sports field, a park that's less than 10 acres, there's a lot of nature to be seen, a lot of observations to be made, and so I hope that you'll think about going out to a park near you and looking for these things and enjoying these things for yourself. So let's go take a walk. Before even getting into the park proper, we find one of my favorite small native trees growing in the parking lot island. This is the serviceberry, also called the Shad Bush. The scientific name is Amelanchior. Serviceberry is one of the first native trees to bloom in the spring, often blooming even before the dogwoods and even before the invasive non-native Bradford pear. It's the first week of June and the serviceberries are ripening. They'll turn a dark purple when they're ready, like some of the ones here on this stem. They are wonderful to eat out of hand, right straight from the bush, as well as being very good in pies and enjoyed by many species of wildlife and songbirds. I'm actually lying on the ground right now underneath one of my favorite trees in this park and one of my favorite tree species generally. This is the American sycamore, Platanus Occidentalis. You can see it has this wonderful white underbark that is exposed when the outer bark chips off. You can often find those chips and plates of bark on the ground under the tree. I couldn't find any today. One of the reasons that this is one of my favorite trees is because these lined the road on the way into my hometown. They make good urban trees. A lot of trees that grow naturally near water make good urban trees because they can grow with very little air in their root zone. They don't need nice fluffy soil the way some trees do. But a lot of the times in an urban setting, what you're actually seeing is not the Native American sycamore, but the London plane. It's not invasive, just introduced, and it looks almost indistinguishable from the American sycamore. Here's a sycamore leaf. I don't know if you can see that very well. I'll try to show it to you when it's not backlit. But you can see they're quite large and kind of shaped like a maple leaf. Just a really, really beautiful tree. I've seen a lot of birds, goldfinches and other birds using this tree in my trips to the park. So here's that sycamore leaf when it's not held up in the air. This is one of the most important plants to learn if you're going to be going on nature walks. This is poison ivy. This particular poison ivy plant is growing as a vine up the side of this tree. You can see that it has the leaves of 3 that you hear about. So this is a compound leaf. That is a leaf that is made of 3 leaflets. Sometimes they have some serrations. Often the center leaf is pointier than the 2 side leaves. When I was younger, I was told that poison ivy leaves were red. As you can see, they are in fact green, but they were reddish when they first came out this spring, and they will probably turn reddish again in the fall. I was also told that they are shiny, and in the spring they were shiny, and they're maybe a little bit glossy, but the newer leaves anyway, but they're not particularly shiny. What you need to learn is this leaves of 3, leave it be. This is one of my favorite shrubs. This is the elderberry. Elderberries are one of my favorites because they were one of my Nana, my maternal grandmother's favorites. She grew up on a farm in upstate New York, and her father would send her out in the summer to pick elderberry blossoms, which he used to make wine, and then her mother would send her out to collect elderberry fruit, elderberry berries, later in the summer to make jam. So superficially this may look like a viburnum or like a Queen Anne's lace or like the poison hemlock that we're going to learn about a little bit later. But you can see that the leaves are quite different. So it's a compound leaf with those nice big but serrated leaflets. So the elderberry, a wonderful native shrub. Here we have some scat, which is the way that scientists and natural resource type people talk about animal droppings. As you can see, this creature has left scat here at least twice. This pile looks a little bit older, whereas this pile looks a little bit newer, and there's some more further down the hill. There are a number of animals that do this, that will return to the same place over and over again to do their business, as well as animals that will have communal areas where more than one individual will leave their droppings. So here's a little bit of a zoom in, and you can see this here, wearing my gloves again, is the arm of a crayfish. Indeed, most of what we're seeing here are crayfish bits. These long antennae. Look at that red color from those exoskeletons of crayfish. So whatever this was, it ate a lot of crayfish. That was a major component of its diet. I've done a little bit of research online. Of course, raccoons will eat crayfish. But from what I've read online, raccoons are likely to also eat berries, and I'm not seeing any plant material in here. All I'm seeing is crayfish parts, and fairly large pieces of crayfish skeleton as well. And from what I've read on the internet, that could mean that this was left by a river otter. But I'm going to try to take this film and show it to somebody in the wildlife department and try to get a more expert opinion. This is another fun find. This is the wing of a cicada. So here in Southwest Virginia, we're having an emergence of 17-year cicadas this year. There aren't very many here in the city of Radford. When I drive through the countryside, through the wooded areas on my way to Blacksburg, I can hear them. I can hear them from the car, loud and chirping. But nevertheless, we do have a few here in Radford, and this is the wing of one. Many birds and things will eat the cicadas and leave behind the wings. So that's probably what's happened here. You don't want to eat that part. There's no food, no meat on that. But it sure is pretty. This park has a robust population of poison hemlock. Poison hemlock is one of the few plants you'll find in Virginia that can kill you just by ingesting a small amount. These poison hemlock plants grow taller than I am, reaching heights of 6 to 8 feet. Poison hemlock flowers are small, white, and arranged in an umbrella shape, much like Queen Anne's lace, with which it can be easily mistaken. However, these flowers also smell very unpleasant. Some sources compared it to the smell of mouse urine. It is strong, musty, and unpleasant. Poison hemlock leaves are compound, pinnately compound, and very finely cut, almost fern-like. They might remind you of the tops of a carrot or of a parsley or cilantro plant. This is distinctive. It's different from Queen Anne's lace, angelica, giant hogweed, and other plants in this family. The stalks of the poison hemlock plant are hairless and blotched with purple or reddish blotches. There are a few other plants that are similar to this. I make it a policy to avoid all of them. Anything that looks a little bit like a Queen Anne's lace or a carrot or a parsley, especially if it has purple stems, is something that I avoid. This was a robin's nest that I found growing in this bush honeysuckle. When I first found it, it had 3 eggs in it, bright blue, robin's egg blue eggs. And then the next day it had 4, and then 2 days later, all the eggs were gone. So some other creature, a raccoon or a snake or something, had come and eaten the eggs. The nest is in a bush honeysuckle, so make sure you check out my invasive species 15 minutes in the forest to learn about bush honeysuckles and why they're not very good places to build your nest. In this case, I'm not sure it ended up mattering because like a week after I saw that the eggs were gone, there was a flood and the water actually came all the way up here and damaged this nest anyway. So I'm not sure it mattered. But you can see the robin uses a lot of grasses and very fine twigs and mud in its nest. And finally we come to the boat launch where you can access the new river. It wasn't but a month ago that the water came all the way up to where I was standing there by the sign in a flood that my neighbors tell me was about a 10-year occurrence. But you can come right down the boat launch here if nobody's using it and see the water. There are 5 concrete slabs that make up the boat launch today. 3.5 of them are visible. So the waters come back down after all the rain we had. The river is a great place to see birds, including geese and cormorants. I've seen fish jump. Before I leave the park, my last stop is always up here in the upper parking lot where I turn around and look at the osprey nest on this light pole. The osprey have given up on this location. It wasn't working for them. The nest materials kept blowing away. I had hoped to show you some birds during this 15 minutes in the forest, but unfortunately they pretty much never stayed still long enough or got close enough for me to video. So that's just something you'll have to check out in your own park. But I do have a little bit of footage of the osprey from when they were working on this nest back in the spring, and I'll end with that. The osprey came back with a pile of branches. I'm going to try to zoom in and see if that... see whether or not it gets blurry. Well, that's all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this 15 minutes in the forest, please be sure to join us next week. Same time, same place, same Zoom. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe so that you'll find out every time we post a new 15 Minutes in the Forest video. Next week, Bill Worrell will be talking about the Big Tree Program and measuring a big tree. It's a record-sized tree here in Virginia and possibly the nation, so you definitely don't want to miss that. And after Bill's session, we have 12 more sessions of 15 Minutes in the Forest planned throughout the summer and going into well into the fall. So check those out. We look forward to seeing you again.